What's up, Undisputed listeners? It's your boy, Sharpe. I wanted to tell you about my new podcast, Club Shay, where we always do something before two something. Each week, I sit down with a guest for a drink and conversation, and as host and proprietor of Club Shay, I've welcomed in esteemed guests such as Snoop Dogg, Floyd Money Mayweather, LeVar Ball, Isaiah Thomas, just to mention a few. Whether I'm talking to an athlete, a musician, an actor, or a lifelong friend, Club Shay is a place where people share inspiring and motivational stories about their journeys to prominence. The new episode drops every Monday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to Club Shay now and make sure you never miss a new episode. Now back to Undisputed.
Welcome to Undisputed Live from Los Angeles, ladies and
Welcome
gentlemen.
to the Undisputed Podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Tapp. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Everybody loves him, but we'll see what he thinks. Let's dive right into it, gentlemen. That's a wrap for the Nets' 5-game Western road trip. They went undefeated, even as KD recovers from a hamstring issue. James Harden and Kyrie Irving led the way against the Clippers last night. A combined 65 points, 15 boards, and 15 assists. A late offensive call against Kawhi Leonard sealed the win for Brooklyn, who moved within half a game of the top spot in the East. CB, are the Nets the best team in the NBA after sweeping both LA teams?
Look, my preseason pick was Lakers over Nets in the NBA Finals. And I'll stick with that for now. I want to see how things play out over the next several weeks. But I will say this. If I did power rankings, the Nets would be number one, and it wouldn't even be a question. It wouldn't even be close. I'd make them number one with no hesitation. And as I was watching that game last night, the thought that kept going through my mind was, they're the best team in the league. And they don't even have their best player. I mean, you can't overstate the impressiveness of a 5-game win streak out west. Going 5-0 out west. They're 12-4 against teams that are 500 or better. That's the best record in the league. They have beaten every single elite team in basketball. Philadelphia, Boston, if you want to include Indiana, the Lakers, the Clippers twice, Utah, Denver, Phoenix. And that is with their stars in and out of the lineup. Guys, they are probably about 75% of what they will be going forward. They look tremendous. Now, when they came together, there were two questions. How would they fit offensively with chemistry and the defense? Obviously, the offense has been terrific. They're on pace to have the highest rated offense in NBA history, with James Harden taking the point, Kyrie willingly taking the 2. That's the best situation for him because Harden is a phenomenal point guard and passer, and obviously Kyrie can score. And the great thing, guys, is that we don't have to worry about when KD comes back. With a lot of superstars, you would be like, wow, how's it going to fit? If they bring so-and-so back in, he's going to take shots away from him, and he's going to, have to dribble the ball a lot. Not so with KD. KD can get his 30 points on 16 shots. He will fit in perfectly. Not a lot of dribbling, just catching and draining jump shots. So offensively, they're great. And what that's done, guys, the unselfishness of Harden and Kyrie, not only in, playing different roles than they have in the past, but the way they pass the ball, the way they're sharing the basketball, that has got who Shaquille O'Neal calls the others, that has gotten them in the right mindset. So Joe Harris, Tyler Johnson, Bruce Brown, TLC, Jeff Green, the rest of them, they're getting regular touches on the offensive end. They know that if I just move without the ball, if I cut, if I spot up on 3, I'm getting an open look. So what are they doing? Hustling on defense. And the defense has been better during this win streak. It's ranked 21st in the league during their 5-game win streak. And that's all they need, guys. It doesn't need to be the bad boy Pistons defense. It just needs to be adequate with that firepower on the other end. And it is adequate. they look like the best team in the NBA.
Yeah, LeVar, I'm going to disagree with him, but I'll let you go first. I mean, listen, he left a lot of openings there.
Well, I feel like they are the hottest team in the league for certain. Best team, it could be up for debate, but let's go with it because they are the hottest team. They've proven they're the hottest team, and they're playing great basketball. Like Broussard said, you don't even have KD out there with his offensive production. But the cool thing about watching this Brooklyn Nets team is their ability to create space and create opportunity. The others, right, moving around, they're getting the opportunities to contribute in such a positive manner because you have two guys right now on the court that can create their own shots without needing too much help. So when you look at that aspect of it, it's interesting when you talk about James Harden, and a lot of the things that were stated about him was he's selfish. It's interesting that he leads the league, the NBA, in assists since joining the Brooklyn Nets. So this team is balanced, but more importantly, they're so dangerous in terms of two scorers right now. They will have three prolific scorers. You have possibly three of the most prolific scorers in the league, maybe in history, together. And you have other guys that are contributing, doing what they need to do. I do believe they have to be better on defense if they're going to make that true run and push to win the championship. But right now, they're the hottest team in the league. So I'll say they're the best team in the league today.
Yes, I agree with both of you guys. Definitely, no question, the Nets are the best team in the league right now. But, Chris, you mentioned Kevin Durant has not been playing with the hamstring injury, okay? Things are great when you're beating the Clippers, you're beating the Lakers, and James Harden is really playing the best basketball of his career. Chris, I think you would agree with me. Even better when he was the MVP of the league. Harden's only attempting 6 free throws a game. He was attempting 11 in Houston, right? When he was the MVP. He's distributing more because he kind of has to. You got to keep Kyrie Irving happy, and Kyrie's the guy I'm worried about. Let's be honest, guys. When Kevin Durant comes back, Kyrie's not taking 26 shots a game. And if you watch late against the Clippers, what was Kyrie doing, Chris? He was resorting to some hero ball. 2 for 9 in the fourth quarter, 0 for 4 on threes. He basically said, I want the game-winning shot. I want to do this. And Harden was kind of standing to the side, and that allowed the Clippers to come back in the game. When Kevin Durant is there, I think everybody would agree. Option A, Kevin Durant. Option B, James Harden. Option C, Kyrie Irving. He did not like being option B in Cleveland to LeBron. And I'm curious how when they face some adversity, because there will be some, we all know this, how will Kyrie Irving handle it? I think James Harden defensively.
I push back on that a little bit. And the reason why I push back on that a little bit is it depends on what the defensive sets are going to be coming into those games, right? Some teams have better bigs. They can do better in the paint. Some have better perimeter play. I think it depends. It all depends on the matchups that's coming into the games. Because if you have a guy, which, I mean, nobody you're going to say really matches up well with them defensively, but you got to say, well, how do they match up against the other team defensively on their side of the court in terms of Brooklyn playing defense? So you got to look at it from both sides of the court. And if you have a game where there's a smaller guy that may be on KD, then maybe it's a KD game. But if you have a guy that it's a favorable matchup for Kyrie, then Kyrie maybe goes from being C option to being A option based upon creating those spaces out there on the court. So I would just push back on that just a little bit, that he isn't always going to be the third option in their sets.
A quick note on the defense, Broussard. Since James Harden has arrived, they are switching on picks more than any team in the league. Their defense was 25th, I think, in efficiency about a week ago, and they have skyrocketed up the charts. I know it's been against, a depleted Lakers team, and Paul George wasn't there the entire game last night. But I will just say, this impressive defensive run from the Nets makes me bullish that they're definitely the team to beat in the East. I had liked the Sixers early in the season. It's pretty clear Seth Curry and Danny Green don't have much of a chance against Harden and Kyrie, but Broussard, do you foresee any issues with Kyrie Irving once Kevin Durant returns?
I mean, look, you'd be foolish to sit here and say for certain 100% that Kyrie's not going to have any issues. I mean, what was it, a month ago, he went AWOL out of the blue. And he was playing great basketball before that. So you have to leave that open as a possibility, but you can certainly make an argument. Look, I don't expect that to happen. Let me say that, number one. But if it did, heck, I still could argue with James Harden and Kevin Durant, they got a great shot to win the championship. So they bringing Harden in gave them some security just in case something does happen with Kyrie. But I'm with LeVar on, you want to have this pecking order, J-Mac. And we all know that Durant is the best player, and I agree. Harden is the second best player on that team. Kyrie's third. Kyrie probably doesn't believe that, but that is the case. But I don't think they're going to have a pecking order. Remember, when Kevin Durant's first year in Golden State, he took fewer shots than Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. All right, he was taking fewer shots than Kyrie before Durant went out with COVID and then the injury or the COVID contact and all that. So I think that what they're doing on offense is just hitting the open man. Mm-hmm. That's what they're doing. Like Harden, all three of those guys can create double teams and space, and they draw attention, and that leaves openings. So that's why Joe Harris has had nights where he's gone for 20-plus points, because they are hitting the open man. And I think that open man a lot of times is going to be Kevin Durant or is going to be Kyrie. I will agree with you, J-Mac, on last night's game. At the end, I didn't like Kyrie taking a few of these deep threes early in the shot clock, I might add. So you saw early in the season, Durant missed a couple of potential game winners late. And it was almost like Kyrie, a couple games later, Kyrie started taking those shots. He was like, I gave you a chance. So I don't want Kyrie thinking that way. He's got to remain selfless and know that KD can get it done. Harden can get it done. For the most part, he's done that since Harden's been there, but he's got to continue. And defensively with the switching, what that does is that turns the game into a one-on-one game. Because when you switch, it can take the offense out of their action. And so now it's just, can I take this guy one-on-one? Can I take this guy one-on-one? And nobody has better one-on-one players than Brooklyn. So if they can force the other team to play them essentially in a bunch of one-on-one matchups, who's beating them? That's how Houston almost beat Golden State a few years ago, was that they switched everything and kind of got Golden State out of its motion and movement and all that. And it became our one-on-one guys against your one-on-one guys. So, look, I'm with you guys. I don't want to overreact and say, oh, they're definitely winning the championship. There's a long way to go. But right now, they look like they could become the king of the league this season.
Yeah.
I like the aggression. You guys are saying y'all want Kyrie not to do hero ball and different things like that and make sure that KD can get it done. Be clear. There have been times where Klay Thompson had to get it done. There have been times when somebody else had to get it done on Golden State's team. I look at this team and how much talent that they have. And I think back to when Scottie Pippen had to get things done for the Chicago Bulls. That aggressive style of play means that Kyrie Irving is taking ownership over what he brings to the table. I don't think that what he did was reckless. So as long as it doesn't fall in the parameters and the realm of getting reckless and out of control, and I hate to do this because I'm a big fan of Russell Westbrook, but it's not Russell Westbrook-like. It doesn't look as though it's undermining what the team is trying to do. His aggressive play has been within the flow of what they're doing within these games. And when you look at that, to have the confidence that Kyrie Irving is playing with and James Harden and not having KD out there but still playing at such a high level, I don't want to temper that expectation, that standard that they're creating. If Kyrie Irving, all right, feels as though he's in a place where he can dictate in the game, let him do it. If James Harden at some point during the course of the game feels like, whoo, that thing is on fire, let him do it. Because with those type of guys, with that type of confidence, they'll figure it out. These guys play 360, 59 days a year. They're playing basketball all the time. I think sometimes we overstate. Is there enough shots? Are there enough passes? Is there enough offense to go around? These guys know what that feels like, and they know how to feel how the game is going. And if one is getting it more than the other, maybe Kyrie felt in those moments that in hero ball terms that this was his deal, that I feel good about it. I can make this shot. I don't want him having any doubt as we move forward. None of my big three, in fact, none of my guys, period, should have any doubt that they can pull the trigger and hit the big shot. That's the confidence. That's the aroma. That's the scent of a winning team. And they have that in Brooklyn.
So, LeVar, let me ask you this, okay? We've seen super teams in the last 10-ish years, okay? Klay Thompson did not dribble the ball. He was just a shooter, catch and shoot guy, okay? Chris Bosh took a big step back in Miami. He was like the fall guy, anything
But he took
went
a
wrong.
big step up when he needed him.
He did, yes, he did.
He took big steps up.
But he's also a guy who was cool not getting the basketball or not getting touches.
Fair enough.
Kevin Love in Cleveland, same deal, okay? He's the fall guy. He's taking fewer shots. Kyrie Irving's DNA is, I've been a point guard since I was 8 or 9 years old, okay? I've been running the show at the high school level, at Duke, in Cleveland. Then LeBron kind of took the team from me. I didn't like that. I had to get out of town. I mean, I just wonder, once we've played more than 10 games together with KD, Kyrie, and James Harden, how that will play out. Because, again, Chris said we don't have a crystal ball, but just history, we can use it as a lesson. And that has not gone well when Kyrie has not had the basketball. I'm not making trouble for the Nets. I'm just trying to, see what's going to happen down the road.
It's fair to wonder. It's fair to wonder. Look, I like the fact that Kyrie, I wish he would have involved Steve Nash in the decision, but I like the fact that Kyrie went to Harden and was like, look, you're the point. I said when they brought this team together, the ideal lineup for them is Harden at the point, Kyrie at the 2, and obviously Durant in the front court. I'm glad Kyrie saw it because it's obvious. James Harden is the best dual threat point guard on earth. All right, I mean scoring and passing. He is a tremendous passer. And he's the guy, J-Mac, that has stepped back. He's the one that's been to Chris Bosh. He's the one that's been to Klay Thompson and said, I'm getting 15 shots a night. That's it. I'm fine with it because I'm going to get my 24 points. I'm going to get my 11 dimes and lead the league in assists, and we're going to win a championship. That's his mentality, and I like it. Kyrie does have to remain off, for the most part, off the ball and cool with the way things are working. I think he will, but look, his history is his history, and he's done some things that nobody foresaw him doing, so it is a possibility, but if he's matured and if he's looked at it like, I've done everything individually. I've hit one of the best shots in NBA history. I've won a championship. I'm about to be a Hall of Famer when I retire. I can't do anything else individually to create my legacy even better than it is. I just want to win championships, whatever it takes. He's going to get his 25 points. If he takes that mentality, then these three are going to be tough to beat, period.
I think that's the mentality of all of them, Brew. Like, honestly, J-Mac, when you look at the assists that he's dishing out, that is James Harden, the selflessness in their play, the way they're encouraging one another, I don't think it's fake. I don't think that it's an act, a charade. I don't think that this is them trying to silence the critics. I think they feel as though when KD left Golden State, what did they do? First of all, they called him soft coming into Golden State. All right? Cupcaked him, right? All the way through. Cupcake, right? Then they push him on out like, oh, you just going to leave Golden State, right? So now he's dealing with the media coming at his neck, dealing with social media trolls, all that stuff. All right? Kyrie Irving, the world is flat. It's flat. It's not round. All these different things, doing the cleaning the energy, the sage energy at the arenas. All of these different things that everybody is choosing to focus in on and pick on these guys, right? And then James Harden, the worst of all. He's a cancer, much maligned. He's a malcontent. He can't win anywhere he goes. If he goes to Brooklyn, it's going to be a problem because he wants to do things his way. He's out of shape. He doesn't look right. All three of these guys, along with other guys that have come from other teams that have been high-profile guys, DeAndre Jordan, when you look at this group of guys, this isn't mercenary basketball. I know about mercenary ball. I was in Washington. This is not mercenary ball where you just have guys that are out for points, out for their cash, and out for self. It really looks like these guys genuinely care about one another and realize what's at stake, reputationally speaking, if they're able to pull together and stay together. And that's more than enough of a factor to be able to actually approach your season with the idea and the mindset that I'm going to do whatever it is that I need to do as a personal player to make sure I'm not only giving my best, but I'm making sure the guys around me are playing at theirs as well.
All right, let's quickly move, guys, to the paper clips. Let's make fun of the Clippers for a few moments. I know Skip loves them. Broussard, this team just reeks of fraudulence. Kawhi Leonard there with the charge late. I don't know. Is this even a top 3 team in the West? Do you even consider the Clippers serious contenders right now?
Let me stop you. Let me stop you, J-Mac, before you embarrass yourself even more. A fraudulent? What? The Clippers are legit. Now, whether or not they're the best team in the league, we'll see. But to act like they're a fraud, like they're not legit, the Clippers are legit. And I'm not going to go off on the call last night. It is what it is. It happens. But that was a bad call on Kawhi Leonard with the offensive foul because Harden initiated the contact. So it should have been a just let him play, and it would have been a game-time bucket. So, but I won't, harp on that. The Clippers are fine. All right, it's the Clippers and the Lakers in the West. Look, I like Utah. They're tough. They have their great three-point shooting team. They play great defense. They got the one-on-one guy in Donovan Mitchell. So I don't want to totally write them off. But I still think the Lakers and the Clippers are the best team. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah. It didn't want to say Utah.
West.
See, you tried to get Utah out of your mouth. It got caught.
It didn't
want to just leave your mouth and be like, why are you forgetting about us? Why does everybody want to stay in L.A. when Utah is showing that they are the team that is going to be a problem? That's why you choked.
Yeah.
You choked on Utah.
Put some respect on their name, Bruce.
Put some respect on that spice.
I like Utah, but they've got to show me something in the playoffs before I really start believing them. I'm just keeping it real. I've seen this before. Great defense. They're a different animal. Usually it's taking 2 stars. We all know that. Gobert's a star, but he's a star that averages 14 points a game. And he's a defensive star. So who's going to be that other offensive guy come playoff time? So I like the 2 LA teams. Ty Lue's done a nice job with the Clippers. Kawhi and Paul George, that wing position is very important. They got the best wing tandem in the league, or one of them along with Brooklyn. So I'm not writing off the Clippers, J-Mac. You can at your own peril, but they're going to be a force to be reckoned with come playoff time in the West.
Worst clutch defense in the league, Chris.
No mercy.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, I wanted to tell you about our brand new Fox Sports app and website, foxsports.com. Reimagined for the modern sports fan. Go ahead, download the new app right now. You don't even have to pause this episode. Every day on the new app and website, you'll see the top stories in sports, plus a rich world of written content, videos, social media, and analytics to give you a 360-degree view of the most important stories of the day. Streaming live TV has never been so easy or elegant. Every Fox Sports game, including all pregame and postgame shows, are just one click away. For the extra invested fan, we also go deep with real-time wagering lines, trending prop bets, win probability, and key player projections. Download the new Fox Sports app or visit www.foxsports.com.
Hey, Undisputed listeners, it's Charlotte Wilder here to tell you about my new podcast with Mark Titus called the People Sports Podcast. It comes out every Thursday, and Mark and I take one of the big stories of the week, and then we go off on tangents you never saw coming. This might mean that we start talking about the Dodgers winning the World Series and end up wondering if Knicks fans deserve happiness. Or begin with LeBron's greatness and end up drafting our ultimate beer league softball team made up of old athletes. Whatever it is, the only rule of the show is that it has to be fun and funny, because these days we could all use as many laughs as we can get. So check it out wherever you get your podcasts and come down weird sports rabbit holes with us. We can't wait to have you.
The LA Lakers hit a few roadblocks since Anthony Davis went down with a calf injury on February 14th in a loss to the Heat in a finals rematch over the weekend. LeBron scored 19 on 7 of 21 shooting, just 1 of 8 from three-point range, his worst shooting percentage of the season. After the game, he admitted it hasn't been easy, but, quote, now it's time for me to adjust again and see ways I can be even more effective to help this team win ball games. We're in the winning business, and I've always been a winner. So it's time to click into that. Ric Bucher, should your Lakers be worried?
Well, look, it goes without saying that Anthony Davis has to be 100% healthy, all right, for them to win a championship. And it's championship or bust. It's not get to the finals or bust. It's championship or bust. So they need AD healthy. We know that. Take your time, get 100%, and come back. Secondly, there can't be a team in the league that doesn't look at Brooklyn and your heart doesn't skip a beat at least once, all right? So Rob Pelinka does need to be working the phones, seeing if there's some great piece that they might be able to add, to combat Brooklyn. I don't think that's going to happen, so they probably have to go to war with what they have. And so worried is a little bit too strong for me. Oh, no. I would just say concerned. All right. And I think LeBron, I get where he's coming from, because if you watch this season with the Lakers, I see a different setup than I have in the past with LeBron teams. I see LeBron being more a part of the offensive system rather than being the offensive system. I think he's fitting in a little more than he ever has. He's not having to create everything for everybody. And that's worked fine when AD was there. Now they've lost 3 of their last 4. AD's not there. And their best chance of winning would be to put the ball back in LeBron's hand pretty much all the time and let him create. That's what Cleveland did way back in 2015 in the finals against Golden State when Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love went down, and it gave them the best chance to try to win that series. LeBron could control tempo and control the tempo of the game for both teams, and that would be a great chance for the Lakers to win more games. However, I would say don't do that. Don't overburden LeBron James during this stretch while AD is out to try to keep the 2nd seed or the 3rd seed or get the 1st seed, whatever. The seeding is not of the utmost importance to the Lakers, in my view. Because, number one, we don't even know what the situation is going to be like come playoff time. Will there be 500 fans, 5,000, a packed house, whatever? We don't know. So don't worry about that. Number two, if they meet the Clippers in the playoffs, they're playing in their home gym. And if there are fans there, there'll be more Laker fans than Clippers fans, even for Clippers games. So don't worry about that. Number three, they've got the best road record in the league. They're 13-3. They're better on the road than they are at home. So I wouldn't worry too much about we got to be the number 1 seed. Just get your guys healthy. And for LeBron, he's playing 38 minutes a night in February. He was only playing 34 in January. I don't know that they should keep with this uptick. All right? Play the way they've been playing. Don't overburden LeBron. Let him continue to be a part of the system, and let Kuzma, Dennis Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, and the other guys pick it up, because this could help them come playoff time. If they've learned how to, carry a bigger load than they have when AD is there, that could be beneficial to the Lakers. So no time to panic. Be concerned, but not worried.
It sounds as though the Lakers need to contract you, Ric Bucher, to come in there and talk to their team and settle them down and calm them down and give them that nice kumbaya, warm feeling that you're giving me right now, listening to not having to panic over this Lakers team. Because if I'm any other mindset, I'm panicking. I'm panicking big time. And you know why? You know what I watched and I've seen with this Lakers team? I've seen the other teams figure out a way to defense this Lakers team. And looking at the sets, I'm seeing a 3-2 set. They're setting up at the foul line, at the free throw area, so that they can rotate out to the edges and play defense out there on those perimeter shooters. But it's passive. It's passive perimeter defense. You know why? Because they're basically banking on the fact that this Lakers team is going to have to live and die by the three ball to be able to beat these teams. And they're not doing it. And that's why I feel they've gone on this slide. So when I look at the way they're packing in, like when is LeBron James at his best? When he's able to slash and get to the hole and create that space for other guys to be able to create shots. They're packing in that key. They're making it difficult. They're making it ugly. And honestly speaking, when I look at this Lakers team without AD, they have to be a almost run and gun team. They can't be sets. They can't run sets to win their games. They can't run sets to win a championship. And then that question goes to, can LeBron's stamina last all the way to the championship round, being a fast-paced running gun team? And that's what this team's DNA is going to have to be for them to be able to win. I would be thoroughly concerned because I don't see that injury that AD is dealing with leaving him anytime during the course of this season for him to play out as high a level as he would need to take that pressure off of them to be able to change their game.
Yeah, listen, I don't want Lakers fans to feel like we're piling on, but they are about to start cratering like GameStop stock. It's going to get ugly right now, okay? No Dennis Schroeder for the Jazz game coming up. They will lose that one. And folks, if you look at the final four teams in the bubble from 71 days ago, remember the shortest offseason in sports history, the Boston Celtics are 500. The Miami Heat are like 4 games under 500. Denver's hovering around 500. The Lakers are the only team that's kind of weathered that because they had AD. They are about to go on a tear. It's going to get ugly, and they're going to go right downhill, probably fall to the 4, 5, 6 seed temporarily. I just want to piggyback what Chris said about LeBron James. We got some numbers here, folks, that are staggering. LeBron's minutes, as Chris said, are up. What he's doing at the age of 36 has never been done in NBA history. Seriously, pull up the numbers, guys. This is LeBron, 36 or older, compared to anyone else who's ever played in the NBA. Look at it. This is unbelievable stuff. And as Chris said, 38 minutes. LeVar, we know this cannot last, okay? You've got to dial back LeBron's minutes, eat a couple L's, have Kyle Kuzma take on some of the offense. KCP, bro, you're making $12 million a year. You're scoring 8 points a game. You got to up the minutes. We need more out of KCP. We need a lot more out of Montrezl Harrell. He wants to know why the Clippers didn't pay him. He's upset that Luke Kennard got $64 million, okay? Montrezl Harrell's numbers are down across the board. His counting numbers are down. His efficiency numbers are down. I don't like what I've seen from Harrell. Frank Vogel needs to get the other guys up to snuff for this Lakers team to get out of this hole.
Yeah, look, I think a few things have to happen. You mentioned AD. Look, LeVar, if you're right about AD, if he's not going to be 100%, they might not get out of the West. Because J-Mac brought up LeBron's stats. That's phenomenal what he's doing. And remember, he entered the league younger than everybody else on that list. So he's got more wear and tear on his body than Michael Jordan, Kareem, Karl Malone, all those guys had at 36 years of age. So at some point, there's going to be slippage, and it might be now. And without AD, we might begin to see it. I'm not saying he's going to slip to the point where he's not one of the best players in the world, but he could slip to a point where he can't carry this Lakers team without AD being at his best. AD's not only got to get right physically, but mentally. I expected AD to come out and challenge for that MVP award this year. Coming off that championship, I expected there to be a natural passing of the torch from LeBron to AD in Lakerland. Instead, AD has regressed. Points are down. Rebounds are down. Blocks are down. Free throw attempts are down. Even free throw percentage is down. He's a career 80% shooter. He's shooting 71% from the foul line, which is baffling. So I don't know what's going on with AD. He clearly has not had his game faced on. He can try to say he's playing great defense, and he is playing very good defense, but he is slipping on the offensive end. And he has got to come back right, not just physically in 5 weeks, but mentally ready for the second half of the season to help LeBron put some fear back into the other teams because they see the Lakers playing so well.
I don't see anybody being afraid of the Lakers at this point. It sounds good, but I don't see a healthy AD making people afraid. I don't see that out of this Lakers team. And listen, I don't have a dog in this fight. So when everybody starts talking about this, why you hating on the Lakers? I'm not in that. I'm not in that wagon. I'm not on that bus. I'm just looking at it purely as a spectator from the outside looking in. It's one of the coolest things about the NBA right now is parity. You don't really see it too often. There are so many teams that are built so much better. We talked about the super teams. I'm looking at this Lakers team, and I'm looking at the West, and I'm saying to myself, what team is head and shoulders better than the rest of the teams where you say, oh, you have that three strong guys that can carry the team with the rest of the guys being what they need to be role player-wise? I don't see anybody in the West that puts that type of fear into another team where you say, we can go get out of the West. Now, I'm looking in the East and I'm saying, okay, I see that three-headed monster in Brooklyn, Brooklyn stand up. But I'm not seeing that in the West. And I don't think people are afraid of the Lakers. Yeah, I really don't.
LeVar, what's interesting
LeVar, there's this cat named Playoff LeBron.
Okay.
You saw him last year. Remember him? That's what I'm talking about.
He had playoff AD with him. He had Robin with him, Batman need Robin, listen, every once in a while.
The problem,
he had playoff Rondo with him.
Is the Utah Jazz don't have anybody on the wing to match up with LeBron, right? Bogdanovich, Joe Ingles. These guys can't check LeBron. Royce O'Neal, good luck. However, the Clippers do. Their counter is they have nobody to match Anthony Davis. Right. And I still don't believe in the Clippers as a clutch team. We saw them totally fold up like a card table last year against the Jazz up 3-1. That's pathetic stuff. I don't trust the Clippers. So ultimately, the Lakers will struggle now. I think we all agree. But, Chris, you still have L.A. coming out of the West, right?
I still have the Lakers coming out of the West. I think the Clippers will give them more of a challenge than most do. Like you obviously don't even think the Clippers are in their league. I disagree wholeheartedly with that. I think the Clippers have had the proper attitude adjustment. I think Ty Lue has made some strategic adjustments. You see Paul George handling the ball a little bit more. You see their three-point shooting is among the best in the league, right up there near Brooklyn. And so they have made some adjustments. They're a better team. Serge Ibaka has helped the chemistry. So I like the Clippers, but yeah, I would pick. I'm sticking with my pick in the West of the Lakers right now.
LeVar, who's coming out of the West?
I don't know. I'll have to continue. I'll have to continue to look at this.
Don't say Utah.
I mean, they came
don't
close.
Say Utah.
They came close, and I would not close the door on them. I think it's so evenly matched up. Where the Lakers are weak, you mentioned this, J-Mac. Where the Lakers are weak, the Clippers are strong. Where the Clippers are weak, the Lakers have LeBron. But then when you look at some of these other teams, I think they have more weapons. And when I say more weapons, maybe they don't have all the superstars that are on some of these other teams, but they have role players that are really able to make a major difference in what the results of these games are going to be. I see somebody taking that next step this season, and it's not one of the main teams that we always talk about. It might be a Portland. Ooh. It might be a Utah. This could be Giannis's time to try to figure things out. I don't know, but what I know for sure is it's not the exact teams that we're thinking of that we always say traditionally are going to be the better teams. I think there's a lot of parity.
Yeah, Lakers, Nets, lock it up. All right, let's move on to free agent Cam Newton. Oh, boy, he faced his share of critics last season after throwing just 8 TDs and 10 interceptions in 15 games for the Patriots. This weekend in Myrtle Beach, man, Cam faced an unlikely critic in a kid at his own football camp. In a now viral video, the young heckler called Cam out, resulting in quite the back and forth. Take a listen.
You're a free agent. I'm rich. You're a free agent. I'm rich. You about to be pulled. I'm rich. You about to be pulled. I'm rich. You about to be pulled. I'm rich. You're a free agent. I'm rich. You're a free agent. I'm rich. He's a free agent. Where your daddy is? Let me talk to your dad. Where's your dad? You're a free agent. Where's your dad? You're a free agent. You're a free agent. You ass. Talk to. Let me. Where's your dad? Where's your pop?
All right, this is a disturbing video. We could do an hour on this, folks. LeVar Arrington, I'm going to start with you. Will Cam prove his doubters wrong next season?
I mean, it doesn't matter if he proves his doubters wrong. I mean, because he's always going to have doubters. And that's just what it comes down to. No matter what Cam does, Cam has been one of those polarizing figures that people love to doubt him. People love to criticize him. People love to have something to say about him, probably because they could never be Cam. I mean, when you look at him, he's a good-looking dude. He handles himself well. Has he had a few checkered moments? Sure he has. Who hasn't? I just look at this video, and I look at the topic and the subject line, and it's kind of like the same exact thing. It's a misunderstood situation. What will Cam be next year? If he gets on the team, Cam will be a positive contributor and leader to the team. When I look at that video, it goes viral. I saw how many people were upset about it, and the kid is this, and why did Cam respond that way? Well, let me tell you something. If you are around these millennials, and I mean the super generation X, Y, and Z millennials, they different. These babies different. They just come from a different way. They handle things differently. So if that shocked you and that scared you, it's because you're not around these babies enough. Cam is around these kids all the time, all right? I'm a high school football coach. I do 7-on-7s. I do camps. I do youth camps. I'm around these kids. We're around each other all the time. I get into a debate discussion with dudes like this all the time, where you will look at the tone of it and the expectation of what you think a young man should treat in reverence of an adult, and you'll be mortified what you thought you saw, the content and the context of it. But the intent, if you're not there, if you're not around these kids, if you don't understand who they are and where they come from and how they communicate, which Cam does an excellent job of being able to relate and be around these young men and impact them in a way because he's able to be with them, not somebody that's on the television that is untouchable. So when I saw that, and I thought to myself, man, so many people were upset with the kid. So many people were upset with the way Cam responded. No, it's the intent. They were interacting. That was an interaction. Did it get caught up and blown up and put on social media? That's what everything does. That little kid probably looked at that joint and was like, man, like I went viral off of talking trash with Cam Newton. That was it. Not I disrespected Cam Newton. Not I told Cam Newton he wouldn't be anything and he ain't this and he's a free agent this and it's the culture of what these camps and these 7-on-7s have become. And if you don't understand the content and the culture of it, you should probably reserve your opinions until you hear a response from Cam Newton. Like him saying where your daddy is, he's sunning him. Him saying he's a free agent is his response. It's the same exact approach to looking at Cam's career. He will always be a misunderstood figure, but yet a positive figure to those who are close to him.
Chris, I'll let you go next because I disagree vehemently with LeVar. So
I like that.
I'll let you go
first. Now, LeVar, you've gone all kumbaya on us now. I mean, look, I get it. These millennials are different. That was disrespectful. And when I think Cam didn't expect, like the kids obviously calling him out, and he didn't just say, you're going to be a free agent. He was saying I don't even know if I can say it on TV, but he was calling him out, saying basically, you can't play no more. Your game is weak. And I think Cam is stepping to him, figured the kid's going to lighten up. I'm just playing, because you step to a kid like that, you're a superstar, and you think he's going to give you the respect you deserve at your own camp, no less. And I thought Cam, look, nobody liked hearing Cam say, I'm rich. All right. You don't have to put him in his place like that. But overall, I think Cam handled it well. And I think when Cam was saying, where's your father? He wanted to address the father, like with strength. Like, I think, because I would have been in that situation. I would have done it. I wouldn't know. You don't want to, he's not going to say anything negative to the 15-year-old kid. But I bet you if his dad was there, he would have been like, yo, control your boy. All right, I'm trying to help. I'm opening up this camp to these kids to help them. And he's coming in here disrespecting me like this? You better handle this.
You can't.
And so I'm not giving this kid a pass. Look, he's 15. Yeah. He can obviously learn from it, move on. It's not the end of the world. But to show that type of disrespect to a professional athlete at his camp, it just shows me if the kid, to your point, LeVar, is sitting there like, yo, I went viral, and not thinking, man, I disrespected Cam Newton, this great black athlete, then that's a problem too. He should be looking at it like, you know what, that wasn't cool. And his coach saw it in the video that Cam posted later, and it was just unfortunate. I thought Cam handled it well for the most part. Can I answer your question, though, J-Mac, about Cam proving his doubters wrong next year? Unfortunately, I don't think he will.
Yeah.
I don't even know if he'll get the chance. I mean, where is he going and being handed the starting job?
Yeah, he's probably going to have to be a backup. Yeah.
New England.
I don't think.
I thought this year Cam was going to go to New England, lead them to the playoffs, and either have a long-term, a few years with New England, or set himself up to get signed elsewhere. Because Belichick and McDaniels, what they do is they put their quarterback in the best position to make him succeed with his strengths and skills.
Yeah.
They tried to do it for Cam, and you saw Cam I think he's just taking too many hits, guys. He's carried the ball over 1,000 times. No other quarterback's ever done that. And we know they let the defensive players hit him like he was a fullback. And so I think that it's just taking its toll on Cam. He's not going to be any more motivated this offseason than he was last offseason. He's not going to be able to work any harder this offseason than he did last offseason. We remember the videos. He looked great. He was working out. He was talking about I'm about to roar. There's only one animal in the jungle, and I'm about to blank roar. I mean, he was ready. Yeah. And we saw what happened. So I just think, unfortunately, Cam's time as a star has passed. Even as a starter, maybe has passed. He probably can go somewhere, be a backup. I think he can be an asset in a locker room. Guys like him. He can help his starter out. But I think that's the next step for Cam Newton's career.
So I agree with all that. Cam will be a backup somewhere next season. But LeVar, about the kid's moment, and, yes, it was disrespectful. But LeVar, here's my thing, okay? This kid had an opportunity to be around a great quarterback, a guy who won a national championship at Auburn, who was the #1 pick in the draft, okay? Gets the MVP award in the NFL, okay? It takes his team to the Super Bowl. If you have an opportunity to be around somebody of that caliber, you should be using it as a teachable moment. What can I learn from this guy? I would talk less and I would listen a lot because I could probably learn something, maybe ask some questions. But instead, he chose to try to go viral, okay? LeVar, you have a lot of kids you coach. Mm-hmm. If they're coming at you and, challenging you, do you really think those are the kids that are going places? Or are they going to be like the young athletes who have a moment to be around a guy who was a star at Penn State, who was in the NFL, made a lot of money, and learn from them? I mean, I've been at Fox probably 4.5 years now. Every time I'm around Joe Buck, Colin Cowherd, Carissa Thompson, any of the big stars at this network, I'm a sponge. I'm trying to learn. Chris Broussard, when he's out here in L.A., I'm just learning from him. I'm asking him questions. How do you become a pro in TV? I don't know what this kid's thinking. And I think LeVar asking to talk to his dad was going to be like, yo, you should be ringing this kid's ear and apologizing to me. Because every time I toilet papered a house when I was a young kid and my parents found out about it, I had to go and apologize to the parents, and I had to write a letter. And, I know the millennials are different, LeVar, but come on, man. This is not how young kids should be acting around guys who they could learn a lot from.
Again, and I didn't know if you were going to respond to if he's going to be an impact next year, if you wanted to take that before I jumped in on it.
He's a backup, but I like this angle more. I like this angle.
All right, well, when I look at that video, again, you got to take this into considerations. I've run a ton of camps, run a ton of youth-driven events. If that kid's disrespect was real, Cam wouldn't have been asking, where's your dad? Where's your dad? They would have found his parents. He would have been walked off the field. if it was a real like conflict that was taking place, like where it was like this kid is really challenging me on some physical type action, and the disrespect is to the point of where we need to take this kid off the field and we need to find his parents. That's not what Cam was doing in that moment. Cam was engaging trash talk just like the young kid was. And listen, I get it. Respect your black star quarterback, Broussard. I love when you have those angles because it's unique. I love J-Mac, you saying, oh, he won the Heisman. He was a top draft pick. He was in the Super Bowl. That's wonderful. But people value things differently, and people express and show their value and the way they feel about things differently. His way of expressing or having an opportunity to exchange with Cam Newton was through trash talk. All right. Now, you guys may find that difficult and hard to understand and hard to believe, culturally speaking. There was a moment in time where people used the N-word and people got uncomfortable with it. And wait, they're still uncomfortable with it. And so in thinking of how people communicate and do things and the evolution of how people communicate and exchange feelings and exchange emotions, and 7-on-7, I have seen some things where I'm like, how is this not an all-out brawl? How is this not an all-out fight? How are they not? Wait, hold on. What did he just do? That's so disrespectful. He should be kicked out of the game. That culture, which Cam Newton helped to build, by the way, mind you, has been a very, very intricate part in how big 7-on-7 and club culture has become in football because of all of the things that he has contributed in that category. That is a part of the environment that they're in. So in that one instance where that video goes viral and people are exposed to it and they see it, I think it's poor judgment. I think it's horrible. It's a horrible approach to put that much weight on that child and to sit there and actually judge Cam Newton and say he handled it well or it wasn't anything to really handle well. That's how they exchange. That's how they communicate. That's how the culture, and whether you like it or not, that's that young culture and how they communicate. And sometimes it's going to be uncomfortable for us as older people who are a little bit more removed from how that culture works. But to go overboard or to get to blow this as far out of proportion as it seemingly has gotten, I just don't buy it. I don't agree with it. And I can understand the old school perspective of what respect looks like, being a sponge, listening, saying less. But that's just not the culture that we live in. You have to take your boat, your hook and your reel to where the fish are if you're going to fish and be successful catching those fish. And that's what Cam Newton does. And y'all captured a moment. It's the intent. It's the intent. Sometimes we see what it is surface-wise, but it's the intent. And I guarantee you, if you were able to talk to Cam and you were able to talk to that kid didn't even think it the way that you guys thought it. That kid didn't put all of that into it the way that you guys put it into it. It's his youth that was showing. It was not wisdom that was showing. It was his youth. And you saw Cam going in and meeting him at his youth, not at his wisdom, not his after, but his during. That's how I look at it.
All right, LeVar, we'll get it started. 10 seconds or less. Which team takes their hook and reels in Cam Newton? New England. Oh, jeez. All right, Broussard, who you got?
Bro. It's hard to say. I mean, to be honest, at this point, I think he'd be a good backup for Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. Ooh. Obviously, they have RG3. I don't know what his situation is, but, you know, it would be definitive. It's Lamar's team. He's the starter. I think Cam would support Lamar. I think Cam would be great in that locker room. And if, God forbid, something happened to Lamar, obviously Cam is somewhat of a similar type player. So I like him there.
Okay.
But it's hard to say, man, where he's going to end up. I think if New England has a better option, they're going to try to make it happen. If not, they may go back to Cam.
No mercy. Tom Brady and the Bucs have their work cut out for them when it comes to keeping their team together in hopes of repeating as Super Bowl champs. There are 8 big-name players set to hit the open market, including Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, and Levante David. A case can be made for any of these players needing to come back. But Bruce Arians said the priority is keeping this team together, adding, quote, if we could just keep 5 or 6 and keep the closeness and the accountability factor that we have in the locker room. LeVar Arrington, should Brady feel good about Tampa's chances next year?
So I just had a conversation on my radio show with Byron Leftwich, and we had a great conversation about the free agent situation. He says he didn't feel bad about not taking any, head coaching interviews because he's confident about what they have in Tampa Bay. When asked about the free agent situation, he said he feels confident that they're going to sign guys. I was very, very intrigued by him bringing up the fact that guys like Mike Evans and other guys in that locker room said, if I got to take less for us to be able to sign guys like Godwin back to this team and Barrett back to this team, that's exactly what I'll do. It seems as though the character that is connected with this group of guys in that locker room could give way to them having enough of an opportunity to get these free agents to accept what it is that they're being offered in a fair manner. Don't be sitting there talking crazy about me like, LeVar, they're not going to take the hometown discount. I get all that, but it seems as though they feel like they have something special in Tampa Bay. And I believe that the guys that are most important for them to get signed back to the team, I believe they'll get them signed back. And with that being said, I do believe that Tampa Bay, with the way that they emerged and gelled together in a COVID year without a true offseason to prepare and come together to actually put together a Super Bowl run, if they get those key parts back that are in free agency right now, I do believe that they are a team to contend with that could possibly compete for a Super Bowl again this upcoming season.
Broussard, you got Tampa Bay going back to the Super Bowl?
Well, I'll reserve my prediction for closer to next season. But right now, I think there's a great chance we see a rematch of Kansas City and Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. I do think Tampa Bay should enter the season as the favorite. Right now, they should be the favorite in the NFC, depending on, who they sign. And if I'm them, I want to bring back Shaq Barrett, Levante David, and to a lesser degree, I do want to bring back Ndamukong Suh. If I were to lose him, I'd be going after a J.J. Watt or somebody like that. And then offensive, I think those are the priorities. Because on the other side of the ball, look, I don't think anybody's going to throw the bank at Leonard Fournette.
They don't need
This is
to.
a guy that was cut in Jacksonville. It's the running back position. I think people will look at him, Antonio Brown, and Gronk and say, they're not going to do for us what they did for Tampa Bay. Okay, Antonio, we don't know. He's going to behave one way with Tom Brady and maybe another way here or elsewhere. Gronk, we know he doesn't want to play with anybody but Tom Brady. That's the only reason he's out of retirement. And then Fournette, again, I don't think he does this anywhere else. So I think they can bring those three guys back for fairly cheap money. Chris Godwin, you may need to lose him. Chris Godwin now has his Super Bowl. He is a top receiver. He might get a big offer from someone else. And if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm not breaking the bank to bring him back. I like him a lot. But even without him, I've got Mike Evans. I think Antonio Brown could have a big season next year. And then you still got Scotty Miller and the rookie Tyler Johnson. Brady loves him. He showed some things last season. And then you have all those tight ends. So all that being said, I do think Tampa's going to be better for the reasons you said, LeVar. I think they're going to be more comfortable together, more comfortable in their offense. That defense is going to be even more confident. It was getting better as the playoffs went on. So, yeah, I think Tampa Bay should be the favorite to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC right now.
So the gambling markets favor the Packers slightly over the Bucs as the favorite to get to the Super Bowl. But I do need to point out, Chris, all those guys you mentioned, Antonio Brown, Gronk, and Fournette, they scored all the touchdowns in the Super Bowl, all right? And all of them are free agents. 7 starters from the Super Bowl are free agents for the Bucs. I don't think this is as easy as Bruce Arians is making it out to be. Like, you lose Chris Godwin. I mean, he's one of the top 7 or 8 receivers in the league. So you got to break the bank for him. You can't franchise tag everybody, right? I mean, Shaq Barrett had 4 sacks in the postseason. He is one of the best edge rushers in the league over the last 2 years. Like, there's a lot of pieces you need to replace. Levante David, LeVar, you talked about it. You're a linebacker. He is the heart and soul of that locker room. Yes. Okay, Devin White's a great linebacker, young guy. He has even said, Levante David, man, we need that guy. He is our locker room. So all of a sudden, now you're like, geez, we need everybody to come back. I do think Gronk is probably the one expendable guy. O.J. Howard, of course, was injured, the great tight end out of Alabama. He missed the season. You know, Gronk, if he walks off into the sunset, he's got a lot of money in the bank. He's got a pro wrestling career ahead of him. He's all good. But I do think this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Fournette, by the way, had a monster Super Bowl. He was great in the postseason. He has said he does not want to split carries. He still thinks he can be the guy. I don't know that to be the case, but somebody will throw some money at him. I personally like the L.A. Rams right now as my team in the NFC to make a run. It's the Rams, Packers, and Bucs, and I really like that Matt Stafford addition for the Rams. LeVar, you like the Rams as well?
I'm not a big Matt Stafford guy.
Okay.
I think that his stats hide a lot of the realness of the player that he truly is within all the things that we use to measure him. But I like this Rams team, and that's where I was sitting there in my mind. I was thinking, it's like Green Bay, I get that because as long as they got Aaron Rodgers, and they got to get Aaron Jones as well to cooperate. As long as Green Bay has Aaron Rodgers, they're going to be a contender. But I look at this Rams team, after they took that step back after their Super Bowl appearance, seeing them this year, that defense is so impressive. They have so many impressive weapons on that team in general. I will say this, Matthew Stafford is an upgrade to what they had in Jared Goff. And by adding that leadership, that chip on your shoulder, that we've come up short mentality that Matthew Stafford has had, I think this team improves to the tune of possibly challenging a Tampa Bay team or a Green Bay team, just like as close as they were this year. I think that they're that one team that you definitely got to keep an eye on in terms of being a contender for the Super Bowl.
Can I ask you about Washington if they get a quarterback? Okay, we saw the defense was incredible. We just talked about Cam Newton. Ron Rivera's coaching there. I don't know if he wants Cam, but if Washington can get a quarterback, that division is really down with the Eagles losing Wentz, the Giants being a dumpster fire, the Cowboys, a lot of questions about Dak. Is Washington a legit contender in the NFC?
The way they finished the season was phenomenal. And you got to believe that it was the leadership of Alex Smith that was the catalyst of this team really being able to make the run that they did. A lot of people looked at it as the NFC East was the NFC least, and so it wasn't so impressive to make it out of the NFC East into the playoffs as a team. But when I looked at that playoff game, you can't tell me if they don't have Alex Smith in that game, they don't win that game. They had the Rookie of the Year on the defensive side of the ball. The guy on the other side of Chase Young might be better than him in Montez Sweat. You got Big John Allen and Payne and a few others company in the center of that defense. It's probably the best defensive front in all of the National Football League, and that is not an over-exaggeration. They will be better this season coming. They have allowed themselves as an entire team and organization to embrace this new culture and this new way of doing things. A lot of people looked at the name change as a horrible nail in the coffin for an organization that has fallen so far from grace, but it actually was a reprieve. It actually gave way for a rebirth, and we saw that take place as the year went on. So I think they're a legitimate contending team in the NFC East. Depending on who they get at quarterback will dictate how much of a contender they are as a whole within the league itself.
Broussard, any final thoughts on the Bucs?
Well, look, I think, like I said, I think the Bucs are the team to beat out in the NFC. Green Bay obviously is a contender. You said it, LeVar. As long as Aaron Rodgers is there, they got to be in the mix. But I'm disappointed in them. I mean, is next year's season, is it going to be set up on more of a platter next year for them to get to the Super Bowl than it was this year? You had a top 10 defense. You had arguably the best receiver in the game. You had a good running game, one of the tops in the league. And you had home field advantage in Lambeau, which might be the greatest home field advantage in the league when it comes to the playoffs. And you still didn't get it done. You had a team that, to your point earlier, LeVar, didn't have an offseason to get to know each other in Tampa Bay and a 43-year-old quarterback, and you still didn't get it done. So while I certainly have to admit that Green Bay is a contender, I just think if they didn't do it this year, at least get to the Super Bowl this year. I don't know that it's not going to be easier next year for them to do it. And so those are my thoughts on Green Bay challenging Tampa Bay.
No mercy. That's a wrap for the Nets' 5-game Western road trip. They went undefeated, even as KD recovers from a hamstring issue. James Harden and Kyrie led the way against the Clips last night, combined for 65 points, 15 boards, 15 assists. And there was a late offensive foul call against Kawhi Leonard that sealed the win for Brooklyn. Nets move within half a game of the top spot in the East. Fox Sports NBA analyst Ric Bucher joins us now. Rick, are the Nets the best team in the NBA after sweeping both of the LA teams?
The sacrilege I heard in the first hour of this show. No, the Brooklyn Nets are not the best team in basketball. There are two choices for that title, and only two right now. It is your defending champion Los Angeles Lakers, or it is your best record in the league, Utah Jazz. Those are the only two options that we have. I know I keep hearing about how the Nets have the best record against teams above 500. All right, let's throw that out because you know who had the best record against teams above 500 last year? That would be the Los Angeles Clippers. How did that ultimately work out? Or if you want to look at the bubble and last season as being an aberration, we can go to the year before and look at the team that had the best record against teams above 500. And that would be the Milwaukee Bucs. And I don't remember them ending up being the best team in the league. So I'm going to put that to the side. But Chris, you and I have covered this league a long time, and you just out of hand dismiss the fact that the Nets have issues defensively. You even cherry-picked and put them 21st in defensive rating over the last stretch. How convenient. They're 24th, okay? Let's be real. They're 24th in defensive efficiency, and you're not worried about that. Well, you should be, because champions, we only have one team that was rated anywhere close to that actually won a championship, and that was the three-peat Lakers with Kobe and Shaq, and they had already demonstrated the year before when they won the championship, and they were the #1 defense, what they were capable of. So they put it on cruise control and then turned on the defense when they had to. No team has had a defense as bad as the Brooklyn Nets defense is right now. Can they improve? Sure, they can improve. But if you're asking me if they're the best team in basketball right now, there is no metric by which I can say the Brooklyn Nets are the best team in basketball.
All right, Broussard, he laid waste to you just a moment ago. I'll let you retort. LeVar and I are stunned right now. Wow. We're shocked. I mean,
Rick, that was cute. You put some bass in your voice. You use history, records, all that stuff, cliches.
Excuse
it was
me.
nice. But you know that the Brooklyn Nets defense is improving. A week ago, 2 weeks ago, it was like 28th. Now it's 24th overall, but during that stretch, it has been 21st. And here's the thing, Rick, and you see it. The other guys, first of all, let me give Kyrie and Harden credit, because I'm not saying they're great defenders, but they are showing effort on that end. They really are trying. And I mean, we saw Kyrie last night at times guarding Kawhi Leonard. We saw James Harden at times guarding Serge Ibaka, and obviously Kawhi Leonard. And I think that, along with the selflessness they've shown on offense, has gotten those other guys to buy in. And you know this, Rick, if you hit the baseline as far as speed, athleticism, strength, then if you want to be a decent defender, you can be. It's communication, it's technique, and it's effort. And those guys are starting to show that. Their defense has improved lately. Now, you're right in that I want to see it over a long stretch, not just 5 games, 6 games. But when KD gets back, I don't think that's going to hurt the defense. In fact, theoretically at least, with Harden and Kyrie taking up so much of the offensive load, KD, who still give you 30 points, will be able to focus even more on defense. We know they may even bring in other players to help them on that end of the floor. So I'm not saying they're going to be the bad boy Pistons or the Jordan Bulls, but they only need to be adequate, and they only need to be able to get stops when necessary to win it all. Because that offense, Rick, you got to give it to them. The offense is unstoppable. They can get an open shot every trip down. Period. I mean, they don't, because sometimes Kyrie just wants to take a difficult shot, or Harden wants to draw a foul or something like that. But they can get an open shot every single time they want to, because they got 3 unguardable one-on-one supermen. So, Rick, look, I didn't pick them yet. I'm waiting a little while before I take them over the Lakers. Ooh. But I think you're dismissing them far too easily and quickly.
Yeah, so LeVar, Rick gave a lot of great defensive numbers, but I think what he's missing is how good the offense is in the league this year. This is maybe the best offensive season in NBA history. Everybody can shoot. Oh, come on, the Clipper defense doesn't really matter that much, does it?
Holy cow.
Rick
they've been the best offense this season for the last 2 weeks. Yeah. Now they're the best offense we've ever seen. Stop it. Defense sucks.
Well, don't they have your best
Rick
rating?
had a line. Slick Rick had a line. It was famous. He said, "I need bullets. Hurry up, run." And you know what? That's what LeBron James is saying right now. I need bullets. And you don't have AD. You don't have them bullets that you're looking for. So y'all better hurry up and run. And the thing about it is, to say that there's a measurable metric as to what, or metrics plural, what is that for the Lakers? Because right now, I'm with you, Broussard. When I look at this Brooklyn team, it's the fact that they have such prolific scores. You brought up the Lakers, Slick, and you said that they were able to be prolific scorers, and that's why they were able to win those championships, void of being this just powerhouse of a defense or even above serviceable. Brooklyn only has to be serviceable on the defensive end, because they will always be able to, A, get leads, B, climb out of deficits, or C, all of the above. And to me, I look at this Brooklyn Nets team, the amount of scoring that you have when you have KD on that roster, I just don't think that you're able to come up with a defensive strategy of any team where you're able to match up with them in a way where you actually give yourself the fairest of opportunities to be able to beat them in the bigger games.
Yeah, Rick, I think what you are missing is Brooklyn in the East is they're not going to be touched by anybody. Sixers can't touch them. Bucks have no chance against them. And in the West, you mentioned the Lakers and the Jazz. What do you mean? I mean, what do you need, more than a 10-game sample size here of 3 of the best isolation players in the league? Who's going to stop them? Nobody. You mentioned the Jazz and the Lakers, and I get that, Rick, but they're going to beat each other up, and the Clippers are going to battle as well. I think it's undeniable that the Brooklyn Nets right now are an offense that nobody can stop. There is zero evidence anyone can stop them at this juncture, and they don't even have Kevin Durant yet.
The Clippers stopped them in the last couple minutes last night because of the decision-making by Kyrie Irving, who decided to jack threes early in the shot clock. And meanwhile, Kyrie Irving, yes, he was giving effort at the defensive end, wasn't doing him much good because the Clippers were getting everything that they wanted. The Clippers, I'm not even sure we would be having this conversation if not for 2 of the worst things about the NBA right now, which is that a game was decided by an unmitigated flop, and we have this arbitrary minutes restriction on, time's up, Paul George, got to go off the floor. We got to bring Lou Williams in, who hasn't been doing anything. I know, but, winning the game is secondary. We got to make sure that whatever. So I don't believe we would be having this conversation if the Clippers had won last night's game. And the Clippers, by all rights, should have won last night's game because the Brooklyn Nets could not close out that game. Not offensively. They had the lead. Defensively. And Kyrie Irving's tendency to go into hero ball mode and the fact that they can't defend at a high level are indicators for me that the Nets, in spite of all of you guys throwing them flowers this early, are still a susceptible team and not the best team.
You based your
Kyrie
argument off
is the problem. We get it. All right, Rick, coming up next. No mercy. The Lakers have hit a few roadblocks since Anthony Davis went down with a calf injury on February 14th. In a loss to the Heat, it was an NBA Finals rematch this weekend. LeBron scored 19 points, but only shot 7 of 21, and he was 1 of 8 from three-point range. His worst shooting performance of the season. After the game, he admitted, hasn't been easy, but, quote, now it's time for me to adjust again and see ways I can be even more effective to help this team win ball games. We're in the winning business, and I've always been a winner, so it's time to click into that. Ric Bucher, should the Lakers be worried?
Are Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder on the floor? Are they playing right now? No, they're not. So, no, the Lakers are not whole, and they shouldn't be worried. What I'm not worried about the Lakers. I'm confused, and I'm not confused about the Lakers. I'm confused by LeBron James. He is trying his best to convince us that he's not old, that he's not 36 years old. LeBron, you're old. You're 36 years old. And you're just coming off of a championship and a short off season and no training camp. So it's okay that you are coasting and that the Lakers are coasting right now. Fully understandable. But stop trying to convince me that you are the same player or that, it's just a matter of choice. I can play better. I can play harder if I want to. Anthony Davis got hurt 4 games ago. It took you 4 games to realize that you might have to do more with Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder out. I don't believe that he really looks at it and says, man, I got to step up. We can't lose any more games. He knows the championships are not won in February. He's just trying to convince everybody that he's the same player. And the reality is he's not. J-Mac, I know you love the new age statistics and analytics, and I like to look at them and utilize them, but I don't think they tell the whole story. But they tell something in this, in that LeBron James's win shares, offensive and defensive, are the lowest in his career by a long shot. So we can look at the other statistics, the scoring in particular, and say, yeah, he's doing as well, pretty much as well as ever, and it's amazing he's doing it for 36. But his impact on the game is not nearly what it normally is. And if he wants to really replace what Anthony Davis and Dennis Schroeder do, it's not about scoring more. It's not about being more efficient offensively. It's about being the backbone of that defense. And that's going to take a tremendous amount of energy. And I'm not sure if he's willing or if it would even be wise for him to expend that over the next couple of weeks to make up for Anthony Davis's absence.
Rick, I don't think it would be wise for him to try to do that. I think they need to just play this thing out, hope that other guys step up, Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, and other players. This could be good for them because later in the season, in the playoffs, when they need those guys to step up and play well, maybe this stretch without AD and Schroeder could help them. So I'm with you there. And look, the last time LeBron made a statement like this, it didn't work out that well. Remember 2 years ago when he said he's going to activate playoff mode and it fizzled out. So I think that, and I'm not mad at LeBron for this. And I would say shame on anybody who is mad at him for this. Obviously, his number one goal is to win a championship. But there are other goals. I think, obviously, catching Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is a goal. And that's one reason I don't think he wants to let up. He wants to keep pressing forward. And then also, I think LeBron would love to win the MVP award at this late stage in his career, which is unprecedented. We know he wants to be the greatest player ever. These would be adding notches to his argument. And so I do think that those things are in the back of his mind. We can argue whether or not they should be. I'm not mad at him for that, because all the great players have individual goals as well as team goals. Just don't let it override and overburden you, because he's playing 38 minutes in February. I think he needs to go back to about 34 so that he is fully healthy along with AD and Schroeder come playoff time, so that they can get this ring or try to get this ring. But I do think those are factors in why LeBron is going out and playing so well and playing so hard, Rick.
I think Rick went to sleep last night with a what-if nightcap. You know, I don't know if it was whiskey or if it was vodka or what. I don't know, but you came to the show with what-ifs today, and my whole thing is this. You have to be concerned for this Lakers team. It's not what if Schroeder and AD were on the team. It's not about that. The reason why it's not about that is because we don't know the impact of the injury, the extent of it yet that AD has. I don't look at Schroeder as being a player that I would say is a part of a big two that creates a big three. I think he's good. I think he's serviceable. I think he's above average. But he's not on the level where you say he's one of the most prolific scorers in the league, and that big three is going to be able to compete with some of the other big threes, especially in Brooklyn or possibly right next door with the Clippers. I think there's need to be concerned, one, for the amount of mileage that has been on LeBron James, for the amount of time he's been playing, not having a legit offseason, abbreviated, all the reasons that have already been stated. There is need for concern, because not only do I see this Lakers team struggling as they get deeper into the season, but I also don't know that I see them climbing out of this hole with the level of play if AD is able to come back and play on that. He's a big man. That is a weight-bearing tendon that he's got upset right now. And I'm going to tell you right now, that ended my career. The Achilles, I don't want to speak the evil on the young man, but I'm telling you, that is a very, very difficult injury to have, and those take time. It can't be rushed. So how much time does AD have before he can test it? And once you get on it, you're on it. So I just think there is need for concern because of the what-ifs that are connected to this Lakers team.
So, Rick, you said you were confused by LeBron's statement. I want to remind people, a couple years ago in Cleveland, LeBron would go on social media when there were issues with the team, and he would put up a meme. Remember the clenched fist, the Arthur? That was like, he was upset about something, and you had to, like, read those cues. What if now he's 36? We're supposed to read this, okay? I've got to do better. I've got to be more effective. What if he's subtly telling his teammates, hey, man, I'm the guy who everybody's saying is the MVP of the league. I'm top 5 in player, or top 10 in player efficiency rating. I'm having an amazing year at 36. You guys, KCP, you need to look in the mirror and be more effective. Montrezl Harrell, step up your game. What if this is LeBron subtly telling his teammates, hey, man, I need to do better, when in reality, y'all need to do better? He can't come out and say that, but I do believe maybe there's a subtle message to his teammates. Hey, no AD, no Schroeder. Step up your game.
You have a point, J-Mac, because usually whatever LeBron says, there's a second thing that message that he's actually sending. And he made a point of saying, no, all the supporting cast are doing fine. I'm the one who has to step up. And maybe it's the exact opposite. Maybe that's the deal. I will say this. This is the element that I am worried about. Look, defensively, with Dennis Schroeder and Anthony Davis, the Lakers demonstrated that they could be the #1 defense in the league. And what I saw through many of the games early on is that offensively and defensively too, they would cruise for 3 quarters. They weren't worried about falling behind early, whatever. They would play the last 6 minutes like it meant something, and they would lock teams down. And they have a 22-9 record as a result of that. So they demonstrated to me that when they want to get back to championship caliber basketball, they're still capable of it. My concern is that the guys that they had added, that I thought were going to be upgrades. Marc Gasol, Montrezl Harrell, Wes Matthews have not proved to be that whatsoever. And so is that going to cause problems down the line? Yeah, potentially, because they won last year playing big ball, big bully ball, and particularly in the bubble with Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee, and they played with size. They can't play that now. Marc Gasol looks washed to me. Montrezl Harrell is he's not even as good as what we saw with the Clippers. So what can they play? Can they play small ball? How well can they play it? Well, in order to play small ball, you have to play fast. And this is where LeBron James would just concede. I'm 36. I can't win MVP. I can't catch Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I can't win a championship all in one season right now. He may want that, Chris, but I think if he puts all of that on his plate, he's going to have to concede something, and it's probably the championship. And if he's looking for marks to get himself any closer to Michael Jordan, that to me is the one that you do not sacrifice.
It's interesting.
No, that's got to be the main thing. As Pat Riley would say, keep the main thing the main thing. But look, to your point about the defense, they missed the rim protection of Dwight Howard and JaVale McGee. And then AD. And I know, look, AD is playing good defense. Even though some of the analytics numbers say they're better without him defensively, we know that's crazy. He's playing very good defense. But, Rick, he has stepped back offensively. And I think during this time that he's out, he's got to look at himself in the mirror and say, why didn't I take the next step that many thought he'd take? I thought he'd be in the MVP conversation. I thought he'd kind of take that torch or it would be handed to him from LeBron like he's the main guy on the team. And instead, he stepped back. His points are way down. His rebounds are below 9 a game. His free throw attempts are down. His blocks are down. And for some odd reason, he's gone from being an 80% career foul shooter to 71% this year. That tells me that mentally he doesn't have his game face on as consistently as he needs to. So if he can get that right during this time that he's out and come back like the AD he was last year and during the finals and playoffs, then it's a different story for the Lakers because he can make up for a lot of the things that they're lacking.
No mercy. There aren't many players more enjoyable to watch than Steph Curry. But some people, man, they just like to throw shade. According to an online analytics study, Steph Curry is the most trolled NBA player on Twitter. Of all the tweets sent to him, 28% had a negative tone, while Russell Westbrook and Joel Embiid were second and third most getting the negative tweets. LeBron, he was the fourth most trolled. Chris Broussard, are you surprised that Steph Curry is the most trolled NBA player?
Chris Broussard's number one. Tell him how it feels, Chris.
I am surprised. I am stunned that Steph is trolled so much. Look, we've talked about it before, how some players, they don't like the fact that Steph doesn't play defense or that he doesn't guard the opposing point guard all the time, things like that. But when I look at the fans, and I'm assuming those are the ones that have been trolling him, I'm baffled. I really am. I mean, his game, as you said, J-Mac, is fun to watch. It's exciting. He's a small player. So when you see a small player dominating a league and winning championships and so on and so forth, usually you like that. He hasn't been given anything. He came in as a 7th pick of the draft. He went to Davidson. He was an all-star a year late rather than a year early. He probably deserved it 1 year before he actually was an official all-star. I don't understand what isn't to like. He's actually made the game more accessible for a lot of people who aren't incredibly athletic, but they can shoot and they can handle. And he's brought skill. He's one of the players that has kind of brought skills back to the forefront of the game. It's not just, can you jump through the roof and have blazing speed? So I keep talking to people, and some people are saying, well, he's too clean. He's squeaky clean. That's why people don't like him, because he's got the perfect family and his children. You see his kids all over the place. His wife is on television with her cooking show, and, they say all these things he's doing are too clean. So I don't know. I like clean. So maybe that's why I like Steph. But for other people, I guess that's the reason, but I'm baffled by it.
What does it say that that being wholesome makes you the most hated person in social media? I think that says a lot more about social media than it does about Steph Curry.
Indeed.
But I am not surprised that he would be ranked, or that he would be the most trolled player in the NBA, because let's face it, the battle that used to exist between Kobe stans and LeBron stans has now been replaced by LeBron stans and Steph Curry stans. And I have to look at the survey itself. First of all, it was done, you guys know it was done by a British casino online site that took 3,000 tweets from October 2020 to January 2021. So what happened in that period of time? Well, LeBron James won a championship. That's going to give the LeBron fans plenty of fodder to go after Steph Curry. Steph Curry was coming off one of his worst shooting years ever. And then when he did get back, the Warriors lost their first 2 games at the end of December by a combined 65 points, and Steph Curry was 4 for 20 from 3-point range. So if I look at the model and how they created this and what it was based on, none of it surprises me, especially in light of the fact that I would say that the battle between Curry and LeBron fans is at the top of the list when it comes to trolls going at each other on social media.
I'm with you, Rick. When you talk about trolling, negativity, craziness on Twitter, that's a cesspool of negativity. So there's not going to be any shocking news when you see, oh, they were mean to Steph Curry. Why were they mean to him? Doesn't matter why they're mean to him. They could be mean to him because of the color of his eyes. They could be mean to him because of the color of his hair, the color of his skin, the way his wife looks, the way his wife's eyes looks, the way the wife's hair looks, the way his kids look. Every single thing, when it goes into social media, is in for public consumption. What you start to realize is, man, what's really scary is when you think about the things that these people are typing and sending, and they actually felt like they made a profound statement that was going to go out into the social media sphere and make a difference. And you read it and it's like, I hate your guts. I hope you go jump off a building. You know why? Because you're as tall as I am and I can't make a shot the way that you make shots. And I don't make the type of money you make because you can play basketball. Like, whoa, that's why you hate me, because you're the same height as me and you make millions and I don't. Like, there's such flawed reasoning and such a void of sense, composure, self-worth, identity, so many moments of deception, despair, lack of hope. It all comes out and it gets projected onto, well, people like Steph Curry. It is what it is. So I don't find it to be shocking at all.
Yeah, I've discussed this with Broussard at length. I think jealousy is the key word here, guys. Steph Curry was not expected to win 2 MVP awards, a bunch of championships. This is a guy who, quote unquote, jumped the line. Okay, if you remember when Kobe was near the end of his career, next in line was Lob City with Chris Paul, who's beloved by NBA players. And if it wasn't Lob City, it was KD and Russ in Oklahoma City. And what happened? There were injuries to both of those teams, and Steph Curry and the Warriors just cruised by them. They start winning championships. They win 73 games, and Steph is a unanimous MVP, something LeBron never did, Shaq, Michael Jordan. Nobody's done that, and I think there is resentment and jealousy around the league for Steph Curry. He was beloved by fans. I think he led the league in jersey sales for 4 straight years. And everybody's looking at this below the rim, 6'3" kid, and they're like, how the hell is he the #1 guy in the NBA? And I think resentment and jealousy is rampant on social media. LeVar, you know this. Yeah. Rick, Broussard, you guys have dealt with this. I'm not looking at social media during these segments because I know the crap that's on there. But Steph Curry's dealing with this, and this is just a guy who, as you guys have, is a great ambassador for the NBA. It's pretty pathetic, actually, that this is what happens on social media. But it's 2021, and Rick, here we are.
Yeah, look, it's a reflection not of actually who Steph Curry is or his career. I believe it's his visibility. The more visible you are, then the more you're going to receive on social media. And I don't want to trespass on your other subject, but when you guys were talking about the incident with Cam Newton and the kid, to me, that was a reflection of the social media attitude brought to real life, in that you can just yell things at somebody. You're usually doing it through a keyboard. Well, now somebody's walking by, you can take the same attitude. I can just throw criticism and harsh words at you because, oh, wait a minute, now we're going to have a conversation? Now you want to talk to me? Now it's a human interaction? And then suddenly the kid was backed up. And I just believe that that's where we are in terms of people not having enough in-person discourse. The pandemic has probably only increased that. And that now Steph Curry is subject to that. But if I'm Steph Curry and I look at that, man, it's like, hey, you know who I am. You're arguing about who I am and what I've done. That's all good because it means I've put my name on the list.
You would think Draymond Green would be the guy that would be getting the most of the hate. But, I mean, just really quickly from my perspective, just to wrap, for me, it's a popularity contest. Let's be clear. At the end of the day, when you look at who gets hated on the most, it's the most popular people, which means that they're the most successful people, which means that they're the most desired people, which means that they're the most everything people, and you don't like it.
Yeah.
Get over yourself and get your own. You got to get your own, Jack. That's all it comes down to. You can't have my album.
Great stuff, Rick. Hey, as the great George Costanza said, we live in a society, people.
No mercy.
Free agent Cam Newton faced his share of critics last season after throwing 8 TDs and 10 picks in 15 games for the Patriots. But this weekend in Myrtle Beach, Cam faced an unlikely critic in a kid at his own football camp. In a now viral video, the young heckler called Cam out, resulting in quite the back and forth. Take a listen.
You're a free agent, Rick. You're a free agent. You about to be pulled. I'm Rick. You about to be pulled. I'm Rick. You about to be pulled. I'm Rick. You're a free agent. I'm Rick. You're a free agent. I'm Rick. They still free agent. Where's your daddy at? Let me talk to your dad. Where's your dad? You're a free agent. Where's your dad? You're a free agent. Your dad. You're a free agent. You ass. Talk to. Let me. Where's your dad? Where's your pop? You ass.
All right, Greg Jennings is with us now. Greg, will Cam Newton prove his doubters wrong next season?
I hope so. I hope so for Cam Newton's sake. But if you're asking me, which you are, I just don't think it's going to happen. And here's why. When you look at what Cam Newton didn't do last year, it just was too big. It was too grand. And I know there are so many people that are like, well, he got to New England late and the situation and the personnel around him was poor. And I get all of that. And he did some great things from a leadership perspective, but it wasn't enough to elevate him to a point to where I truly believe that he's going to be an impact player going into next season. Now, Cam Newton, pride, yeah, he believes that he can do it. And I would too if I was Cam. But however, when I look at the stats, when I see last in passing rating, last in touchdown to interception ratio, last in passing yards, like those stats speak volume and they don't lie. Like there are so many things that we saw out of Cam Newton that was not the old MVP Cam Newton-esque. Even his rushing. Yes, his numbers were high. Yes, his numbers were great for the New England Patriots, but were they good enough? Were they efficient? No. And so I don't think that there's a situation that I have identified that I can say Cam Newton will be inserted and he will make that team better and he would play at a higher level. I just don't see it happening.
I said it earlier in an early segment. He's always going to have doubters. He's always going to have a high level of hate. He's always had it, whether he's been successful or not. It's never, for some reason, Cam's detractors, there has never been enough. You cannot get that off of your back at this point. So why worry about it? Do what you need to do. Focus on what you need to be. I look at the Patriots situation. He's 1 yard away from maybe the conversation being a totally different conversation. We can look at his passer rating. We can look at his stats. We can look at the things that he suffered on. If he gets into that end zone in Seattle, it may change the entire narrative of their season. It may change the entire narrative of what we're saying about Cam. He goes into Baltimore. He wins. He wins. Cam Newton did a singular great thing this year that I can hang a hat on, is that he bought Bill Belichick and that New England Patriots team time. Why? Because there was not a Stidham or a quarterback of any other caliber that was going to help that team get to the record, season record that they were able to get to this year. It would have been a way worse. It would have been a way worse epic fall off had they put Stidham in there or tried to put another quarterback in there. And yet we're still sitting there talking about what Cam may or may not be able to do as a player or an impact player in this league. Cam, focus on what you need to do and do that. And I hope it's with New England, because you bought them time. Get a couple more weapons, do a couple more things, get a couple more guys back on defense, and build out your team a little bit better so that when we talk about Cam Newton, we don't have to put him down based upon team statistical categories that should be lobbied probably at the feet of the coaching staff, not Cam Newton.
So, Broussard, we found the only guy in America, I think, that believes in Cam Newton as a starter next year for a team in the NFL.
It is what it is.
Yeah, look, I believed in Cam this year. I really did. I know he was motivated. We know that he worked hard over the offseason. He had something to prove. He had a chip on his shoulder. He told us, I'm about to roar. And he didn't. All right? I thought he'd lead New England to the playoffs. I thought he, forced the Patriots to either sign him to a long-term deal, at least a few years, or another team would look at him and say, we can bring him in. He could be our starter, like if a Chicago or something like that. But it's not going to happen. I don't even think Cam's going to get the chance to prove his doubters wrong, because I don't see any team out there that's bringing him in as the starting quarterback. I think at this point in his career, Cam has to go somewhere except being a backup quarterback. That's why he was out of the league, to the point where the Patriots signed him, because he didn't want to be a backup. But I think now he may have to accept that role. He did bring great leadership to New England. I think guys in the locker room would love him. And if he throws his full support behind a starter, he could be an asset for a team as a backup. But this is more than ever, we all know, even more than when Cam came into the league and more than when Cam was an MVP. It is a passing league, period. And the only way you can get away with throwing for fewer than 200 yards a game, which Cam did, is if you're Lamar Jackson, because he's a dynamic runner. Cam is not that dynamic runner anymore. I think that's why he's in this position, because he took too many hits. Yeah. And I don't want to say he's punch drunk or anything like that, but it took away some of his athleticism and some of the things that made him great. And so I don't think Cam's going to prove any doubters wrong.
So, Greg, we've got LeVar thinking that Cam can start somewhere. Broussard saying back up. I'm kind of leaning toward Broussard. I mean, we're playing quarterback musical chairs, Greg, in the league right now. Nobody's talking about where Cam Newton's going to end up. It's like, oh, Derek Carr, Marcus Mariota, Jimmy Garoppolo. Cam's way down the list. I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but, Ryan Fitzpatrick may get a look at as a spot starter before Cam Newton.
That's correct.
Where do you think Cam ends up next year? Do you think he's starting anywhere?
I honestly don't know where Cam ends up. But I want to touch on this, LeVar, because, yes, Cam has always had doubters, and he will always have doubters. Any athlete that has been an elite athlete is going to have their share of doubters.
He's
but
had
this
more,
is what
G.
I would
G and J.
Okay.
Cam has had way more than the average good player or really good player.
Here's what I would challenge you to look at. We get the personnel was bad. Cam knew going in that the personnel was what it was. I would have loved to see Cam Newton elevate that team, and then we're talking about what he was able to do with less. But when you didn't do anything, there's a difference when you are a star player and the expectation for you is greater than everyone else. And that is the case with Cam. So the case was he was going to come in there, or the hope was he was going to come in there and not just buy them time. That's not what the New England Patriots do, but he was going to sustain their level of success, their excellence, which was getting them to the postseason. That didn't happen. So what do? We automatically start to put him in the category of the problem, which was not just Cam. We know that. It wasn't just Cam, but he is the focal point because he wasn't able to elevate everyone else around him. So if that were the case, then the doors would be not being knocked down right now for Cam Newton. If he was able to go into New England this past season and play at a high level, statistically, period, and elevate the guys around him, teams would be knocking down his door. We would be talking about this conversation on the flip side of how special was Cam with less talent around him.
How special was Carson Wentz this year? Hey, there's 32 teams in the National Football League, 32 teams. Cam was just on an interview with B. Marsh and the fellas, Fred Taylor and all of them, and said there is no way that there are 32 quarterbacks in the National Football League that are better than me. I agree.
No mercy. Best season ever continues as the NASCAR Cup Series heads to Homestead Miami Speedway for the Dixie Vodka 400. See who will rise up and take the crown at the season's first mile-and-a-half track. All the action starts Sunday, 3:30 Eastern on Fox and anywhere on the Fox Sports app. All right, Tom Brady and the Bucs have their work cut out for them when it comes to keeping their team together in hopes of repeating as Super Bowl champs. There are 8 big-name players set to hit the open market, including Leonard Fournette, Antonio Brown, Chris Godwin, Shaq Barrett, Ndamukong Suh, and Levante David. A case can be made for any of these players needing to come back. But Bruce Arians said the priority is keeping this team together, adding, quote, if we could just keep 5 or 6 guys and keep the closeness and the accountability factor that we have in the locker room. Greg Jennings, should Brady feel good about Tampa's chances next year?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They have a really good roster in the way it's configured, even with some of those guys possibly not returning. However, their chances will go down if they don't return a lot of those guys. And I agree with Bruce Arians in needing to bring back predominantly the guys on defense. When you talk about Shaq Barrett and Levante David and what they bring to the table defensively, even Ndamukong Suh, who will be overlooked because he's an older guy, and it's typical when teams get an older guy, they're like, well, we can replace him. But he played a huge integral role on them in their success. But Levante David and Shaq Barrett, these guys, specifically Levante David, they better have him back in that locker room alongside Devin White. That is their bell cow. He is the heart and soul of that defense, arguably that team before Tom Brady got there. And then offensively, you got to keep some of those weapons around him. Godwin, I would like to see them retain Godwin. Tom Brady truly enjoys Chris Godwin. Obviously, he's going to be a high number for them. If they're willing to do that, we'll see. But the young guys, Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, Tom Brady, he really tried to develop a rapport with those guys because he understands. He played this game for years. He knows how this free agency works. He may not be able to throw that ball to Chris Godwin. So he wanted to establish those guys even last year to get a feel and get them some experience on the field. In crucial situations, they came up big. I think Antonio Brown will only fit with this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So I think they have a really good chance of retaining a lot of these guys that are needed for them to make it almost a lock, if that is even possible, for them to win next year.
A lock, LeVar Arrington. Come on.
I tend to agree with you, G&J. And the reason why I agree is I think the most important free agents that they have to get signed are the ones that you named. When you look at Leonard Fournette, I love Leonard Fournette. Known Leonard Fournette since the Under Armour game. Got an opportunity to spend time with him. Think he's a dope dude. He can really help this team. But you can make it without Leonard Fournette.
Ronald Jones, yeah.
All right. Yeah. So when I look at the receivers position, you've got it. And we spoke to Byron Leftwich this past weekend on my show, my radio show. He made it very clear, abundantly clear, that they really would like to get Chris Godwin signed back to this team. I think they'll give a hero's effort to be able to get him back on the team. I think it's important that you maintain the continuity of what you created with Tom Brady because of where Tom Brady is in his career. You cannot take that lightly. You do not want Tom Brady at this point in his career having to start over. Like, you don't want to do that. That's first and foremost. But then secondly, you have got to get Lavonte David signed. You got to get Shaq Barrett signed. Shaq showed you his value and his worth to this defense. Let's be clear here. There was some great offensive moments in that Super Bowl, but that defense was the catalyst to Tampa Bay winning that game. Your heart and soul, as you mentioned, G&J, is Lavonte David. And for what it's worth, your playmaker, your difference maker was Shaq Barrett. And that's what it is. And those guys are all free agents. You got to get those three. Those three in particular. You got to get Godwin, you got to get David, and you got to get Barrett signed if you want to have an opportunity to try to repeat Super Bowls in Tampa.
Broussard, he didn't mention any of the guys who scored touchdowns in the Super Bowl, the guys that Brady trusts, Gronk, Antonio Brown. I mean, are they coming back?
Look, I agree with Greg. Shaq Barrett and Lavonte David have to be the priorities, period. Bring them back. The guys that you're mentioning, J-Mac, that scored touchdowns, I don't think a ton of teams are going for Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette got cut by the worst team in the NFL. He was available for everybody, and Tampa picked him up. And I think teams will look at him as he did more for them than he's going to do for us. Antonio Brown, really? You really think somebody's going after him and thinking he's going to be on his best behavior? I think they know he will behave with Tom Brady unlike he'll behave with us. So I think they can bring him back. And then Gronk doesn't want to play for anybody other than Tom Brady. So, no, there's not going to be a market for Gronk. Where I disagree with LeVar, I like Chris Godwin a lot. I agree that if they can bring him back, that's a plus. But I don't think it's a necessity for them to get back to the Super Bowl because obviously Mike Evans is one of the best receivers in the league. And I think AB actually is going to come out and have a really good year. If Godwin's not there, he's going to get more targets. So I think AB could have a great year next year. And then you have the guys that Greg mentioned, Scotty Miller and Tyler Johnson, who Brady likes a lot, not to mention the other tight ends even besides Gronk. So they got plenty of weapons. Here's the one free agent nobody mentioned, and I don't think he'll go to Tampa Bay. But it's a possibility, and we all have to be concerned about it if you like the Bucs. That free agent's name is Father Time, all right? And he's undefeated. And at some point, he's coming for Tom Brady. Tom Brady is in his sights, y'all. He's 44 next season. Again, on the record, I don't think he'll pull up on Brady next year. But it is possible. At 44, is it not possible? I mean, look at Peyton Manning. He goes from 39 touchdowns, 4,700 yards one year to 9 touchdowns and 2,200 yards the next year. Get him. Father Time is a knockout artist. He's Mike Tyson.
Get in the car. We got to go save Broussard.
Come on. Peyton Manning, Broussard, come on, stop it.
We got to go save him.
Right, we got to have Father Time nonsense.
You act like I'm talking about a joke.
Deshaun Watson is still a Houston Texan, but teams are reportedly lining up to make offers, including Denver, Carolina, and Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald reports this Dolphins, quote, expect to be in the mix to acquire Watson if the Texans make him available. LeVar Arrington, who should go all in for Deshaun Watson?
Whoever wants a quarterback. Go ahead, Jen. That's it. Whoever wants a quarterback. Period. Point blank. I mean, you can't go wrong with Deshaun Watson.
I agree. But I think the Miami Dolphins definitely should go all in. They have the defense. We saw what their offense looked like with Magic Patrick down at the helm. Not to mention, they got a guy that they're unsure of. Just go after Deshaun Watson. Certify everything that you want to get done.
Who you got, Broussard?
Well, look, remember, Deshaun has the no trade clause, so he can control a lot of this. He needs to tell the front office, look, San Francisco or Miami. You don't even need to talk to anybody else. San Francisco or Miami, preferably San Francisco, because you got all those young quarterbacks in the AFC. You won't have to compete with as many in the NFC.
Yeah,
What about the NFC East?
Well, apparently Watson's list is Carolina, Jets, and Miami. And the problem is the Texans then need to negotiate the deal with one of those three teams. I was told Watson has a connection in Miami. Things could be moving rapidly here in the next week or so. But
what about the nation's capital? Hell to the football team. Hell victory.
Jets could use, not LeVar Arrington. They could use Deshaun Watson a lot. All right.
Not use me.
One day in the books, gentlemen. How good was today, LeVar?
That was pretty
Come
good.
on.
It was pretty good, man. If I'm with you, we're going to be magic, especially with
Deshaun better hurry up before Father Time come and get him.
You like that Father Time.
That's the best free agent on the market right now.
Broussard.
His price tag is high.
So Ric Bucher came after Broussard. Now Greg Jennings is off the top rope. Chris, you're going to make it back tomorrow, right?
Well, I hope tomorrow we can see Greg Jennings' highlight film.
It's pretty good.
That's what I'm looking for.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching us. We will be back tomorrow, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. Coming up right now, Colin Cowherd on the Herd.